Hey fam, and welcome to The Truth Hurts with Tony Quinn, where we talk addiction, recovery, and everything in between. Okay, so it's the new year, so there's that. And I took a little bit of a break, like a 2 week break from making videos, not like the last time when I took a 3 year break. I took a 2 week break because it was holiday time. I had 2 weeks off work and I really wanted to make the most of it because the last December break I had a mental breakdown. I was in psychosis. I have made a video about it, but the last December break I was in corticosteroid psychosis because I got an infection and I was given prednisone to help with the infection, which resulted in corticosteroid psychosis. I was also in an OCD spiral. I have health anxiety and body dysmorphic disorder, and all of it combined into one, resulting in a psychotic break, which resulted in me trying to jump out of a window a few times, which resulted in me being hospitalized 3 times, running out of hospital a few times, writing goodbye notes to my friends and my loved ones because I thought I wasn't going to wake up in the morning. Also making goodbye videos to friends and loved ones in hopes that they would find it in my phone when I didn't wake up. It was a really dark time. And this time, last year, I was on antipsychotics. I was trying to come out of the psychosis that I was then aware I was in. And I spent most of my time in this room watching Real Housewives, like all the Real Housewives, because for some reason it brought me comfort in my psychosis. So that's how I spent my December the year before, and everyone in my life was struggling because it was a scary time for them not knowing what was going on. And I really didn't think I would come out of that psychosis. I thought it was my forever and I couldn't see a way out of it. But here I am now, January 2025, and I'm completely out of it, out of the psychosis. And I'm in a really good place, and I had a great December break. I really did. I spent a lot of time with my partner, a lot of time with friends. We even went away for one day. We took a little trip, just like half an hour out to Hartbeespoort, where we visited an upside down house. So that was fun. We went to go look for a place to have a picnic in a park, but it cost 150 Rand per person to have a picnic in a park. So we went to just have lunch somewhere. We walked around, went to little markets. It was so lovely and so easy and so fun. And I wasn't scared of being perceived out in public because in my psychosis, I was scared to leave the house. And that's how much difference a year made, being on the right medication, getting my house in order, just really working on myself. And it's been great. So that's why I took a little bit of a break from here, because I was really just enjoying the moment and reflecting on what was. Which made me think about, the holiday times are difficult for anyone. Okay, so December holidays, whatever your holiday period is, be it Christmas time, whatever the holiday period is for you, New Year's Eve, dude, all of that is a difficult time for anyone in recovery. But it was also a very difficult time for me when I was in active addiction. It was a time where it was almost like I could go all out, all out. It gave me an excuse to go all out. And it resulted in a lot of chaos, like insane stories about my December breaks, my New Year's Eves, like insane. I did insane shit. And I didn't just ruin like my New Year. I would ruin the New Year for countless people who were around me at that time, which made me think about one New Year's Eve and one December break where I was privileged enough to actually go on holiday. I was like 20. And I went away with my cousin, my late cousin, Terry, and we went to Cape Town for a few weeks. Bro, what I did to everyone that holiday haunts me and is haunting. So I found the journal because I knew, okay, so I went away to Cape Town with my cousin. We met up with a friend of mine. My cousin's boyfriend was there, and we stayed in this little apartment. And we were supposed to be there after New Year, but I was on a plane home on the 31st of December. And my dad was meeting me at the airport to watch me for 2 weeks because I was incredibly unhinged. And all of it started when I phoned a really famous international celebrity to tell him what was going on in my life. And my cousin walked in and was like, "What are you doing?" So I'm going to tell you that story. And I'm going to share a little bit about all the kind of holidays and big moments I was supposed to have enjoyed and how I ruined them because of my addiction, because of my substance abuse or misuse issues. And I'm also going to discuss what New Year's Eve and these kind of holidays are like in recovery, how I deal with them in recovery, the good times, the bad times, and the progression of getting used to enjoying moments while sober. Okay, I'm going to tell you this story. Brace yourselves. So in 2007, so this is when this took place. In 2007, I was drinking heavily. I was also taking a lot of painkillers, like a lot of painkillers. And I was also mixing it with my medication, which was Lily fluoxetine. And I was just completely out of control, blacking out all the time, not fun to be around. My eating disorder was also really bad. At that point, I was restricting. So trigger warning, I was restricting, and then I was binging and purging. So I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. I was 21 years old and absolutely unhinged, partying all the time. And when December break came around and I had the opportunity to go with my cousin to Cape Town in December, which is like, I'm sorry, Cape Townians, I know you hate that Joburg always goes to Cape Town in December, and I was part of the problem. I was absolutely part of the problem. So we went there one year, and we ended up staying at a place. It was like an old jail that had kind of been converted into a place, like into like a residence kind of place. I'll even put photos up of that holiday and what it was like. I was partying every night and just wanted to party. I also liked a boy at the time, and said boy was not going to Cape Town that year. And I used to do this thing where I'd become obsessed. I forgot about this person now, but back then it was like all I focused on, because I placed all my identity on whether or not someone liked me and if I could be in a relationship. And I was never in a healthy relationship. I always kind of romanticized these relationships with people that never wanted anything to do with me. And I would just drink and party and take pills and, act out on my eating disordered behavior, act out on just doing crazy, crazy things to try and almost get attention, or to try and subdue the pain of rejection, I feel, and not really wanting to accept that maybe I needed to work on myself and someone else wasn't going to fix me. That was like a theme throughout my life. So we went on this holiday. I liked a boy who wasn't in Cape Town, and all I was thinking about was said boy and the way I would get through, or the way I could socialize and be seen, because I didn't like my body, I didn't like the way I looked, was to get trashed. That was my solution to my self-esteem issues. That was my solution to trauma I had around being perceived, around being acknowledged. And so going to Cape Town with my cousin was the perfect excuse. I felt safe. I had my cousin with me, and I could do whatever I wanted away from family, and create some sort of new identity on a holiday experience, because I loved creating new identities and pretending to be someone I wasn't. This holiday, I kind of resembled like a Jersey Shore person. I'm going to put that up there because what is that? Who is that person? I don't know that person. I was just being someone I wasn't. Another mask to wear. Oh, I'm going on holiday. Let me be another character. So that holiday is a very big blur. We were staying in this kind of old jail, walking around Cape Town, but I just got drunk, slept the day away, went out at night. Like that's how I remember it. And I was restricting, then binging, then purging. Like that was the whole holiday for me. That was my whole holiday, which is really fucking sad. But one night, me, my cousin, our friend, and my cousin's then boyfriend went out partying. Tony's favorite time of the day, let's go out, let's go party. I don't remember where we started out, but we ended up at a club, and we all got trashed. And then the next thing I remember is being locking myself in the bathroom at our apartment. My cousin's friend, and my cousin's boyfriend were there that night. And my cousin started freaking out. Tony's in the bathroom and she's screaming at someone. She's screaming on the phone. And I was talking on the phone and I was telling someone on the other line my entire life story. I was talking about my childhood abuse. I was talking about how no one would love me, how I hated myself, how I didn't want to live anymore. And I was telling someone on the other line the story. And my cousin was like, guys, we need to get into this bathroom. We need to break this bathroom door down. Like this is bad. Tony has officially snapped. She's having another one of her breakdowns, and now she's talking to someone. She's got her phone. She's locked in the bathroom. I don't know who she's speaking to. She kept saying, who are you speaking to? Who are you speaking to? And I'm like, no one, leave me alone. And then I eventually said, I'm speaking to my dad. And she was like, well, fuck. She's speaking to her dad. You know, he's going to know she's gone off the rails again. And my cousin was incredibly worried. And then she heard me get off the phone to my dad and phone someone else. And it was Luke Wilson. Actor Luke Wilson, brother of Owen Wilson. And I was on the phone to actor Luke Wilson. And my cousin started freaking the fuck out because she was like, this bitch doesn't know Luke Wilson. Who the hell is she phoning and calling Luke Wilson and telling her entire life story to? Because this is now scary. This is levels of Tony she had seen before, but this was scary because I could have been speaking to my dad. I could have been speaking to a complete stranger. I could have been speaking to my mom. I could have been speaking to an ex-boyfriend or the boy I liked. And now I'm creating havoc and calling him Luke Wilson. Like, what the fuck is going on? So my cousin started banging on the door. Her friend started banging on the door. Her boyfriend started banging. They let us in. We're going to break the door down. Eventually, I let them in, and this is how they found me. Hello, Luke Wilson. Yes. This is how I was on the phone. Okay. My phone was in another room. I was speaking to everyone like this, phoning them like this with my hand. Okay. So my cousin was like, well, this bitch isn't on the phone. She's not on the phone. Get her out of the room, put her in bed. And then my cousin phoned my dad. And what happened was the next day, I was flown back home to Joburg because they wanted to institutionalize me. And this, everyone, is the journal entry. And I knew it was this journal because this is clearly an airport journal that I bought. And I thought, this is the one I would have written in, right? It is. It is. This is my 27th journal. And it's the 30th of December, 2007. Okay. Sunday, apparently. Dear Diary, it's all been a nightmare, everything. I'm sitting in the airport the day before New Year's Eve and leaving Cape Town alone. Just me, going home to pure emptiness. I just can't stand being me anymore. Why should I be me if I always end up alone? I make stupid choices and give away my heart too easily. There is nothing left inside me. It's just stopped beating. No one gets or understands my depression. They just don't understand it at all. I have psychotic moments that are blurs in my mind. Last night, I hit psychosis again after consuming a lot of vodka. My mind snapped. Terry and her friend, my friend, told me that I spent time in the bathroom talking to my dad and an actor. My phone was in my bedroom. I was talking to no one. And I was convinced I was talking to them. I'm sick. I have to be. I'm psychotic. So that was like a regular thing I did, you know, speak to people that weren't there, create chaos in an environment that's supposed to be fun for everyone, make people worry about me, put people in situations where they really need to phone my mom or phone my dad and tell him or her what is going on because they were fearful for not just my life, but their life too. Because when I got drunk, I was worse than when I was on meth. I honestly believe I was more dangerous. Like on meth, I was like, ooh, a shadow. When I was drunk, I was like, I am a mobster and I can just hurt whoever I want because everyone's scared of me. That was like the delusion I had when I was drunk. Or I'm super famous and can phone any actor in Hollywood, apparently. And then I wrote, heartbreak is my life story. Fuck my story. I don't share about this often, but when I was younger, I used to place so much emphasis on love and the idea of being loved. And I would like chase people who weren't interested in me. I would chase people who in the beginning would be interested in me and be like, oh, she's fun. She's, you know, erratic and I never know what to expect from her. And then they really see the sickness and they really see the substance abuse and they really see the mental health issues. And they take a big step back. And I could never understand it. I would always blame them. I would always turn to more substances and more chaos to try and get even more of their attention. And it was like this cycle I got myself in from a really young age. It was like this constant need to be seen and be loved by someone, especially if they weren't interested in me. Especially if they weren't interested in me, like it was a game. It was like a form of self-harm. And it continues. Yeah, continued. I'm home, home sweet home, haha, that's laughable. And I guess in the back of my mind, I somehow hoped I would be with insert man when I got home. I haven't heard a thing from him, not a thing. It's like I don't have anything or anyone. I'm a total mess of a person. It's like I'm a shell, a disconnected heart and head, constantly misled. And I wrote that's a line from a Jack's Mannequin song. Does anyone know Jack's Mannequin? I went through a phase. I'm useless. I swear, what did I do to this guy? What did I do to all of them? All the men I have had in my life are just, well, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me. I literally wrote that. Wow, okay. I thought I had no self-awareness. It was me, but I was also purposely kind of seeking out people who weren't interested in me and people who would mislead me a bit. But I would almost set myself up for it. I don't want to completely blame myself for that. But I kind of knew what I was doing, as you can tell. Maybe I just sicken people. Oh, that breaks my heart, man. But I'm also playing victim at this point so that I can kind of cause more chaos, you know? Maybe I just don't deserve to be happy. Maybe I don't know how to make people happy. I didn't know how to make people happy because I didn't know what I liked, let alone what other people liked. I didn't know how to love because I couldn't love myself. And I know that's a cliche, but it's so true. When you're spending your time getting drunk, taking pills, restricting, binging, and purging, and hurting yourself to such a degree, how can I give back when I'm so consumed by what's going on with me, you know? And I'm not saying that in a nasty way about myself. That's just who I was. I was really sick and I needed help. I really needed help. And I was screaming for help. And when it was offered for me, I would reject it fully and create even more chaos. Maybe it's because I don't make myself happy. Happy, 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 happy. Fuck that. It means nothing. Nothing, 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 nothing. Now that's a word. That means something. I am nothing. Dude, I wrote quite deep shit when I was in psychosis. Oh, there's more. There's more. So this is all one day, hey? So I flew and I landed back. I am so depressed. I am struggling to breathe. I am so sick of being messed around. I am always the one who is messed around. I'm changing the word effed to messed. What's wrong with me? I'm just everyone's little rag doll, chucked around and thrown onto the dirty floor, constantly walked all over, trampled all over by dirty fucking feet of 5-inch heels. I am so worried about my state of mind. I have unaliving ideations. I'm anorexic, bulimic, drunk, ugly, worthless, a waste of space, a walking, starving, binging disaster. I can't even cry anymore. Tears are just as useless as me. Could anyone in this world vindicate me as a person? Tell me they like me. Tell me I'm worth it or worth anything, anything at all. I need a sign, a message, something. That's how I went through life, with those kinds of feelings of worthlessness, feelings of not being valid, fear of being seen, fear of being judged. And the only way I felt I could get through that and be seen was with substance, because it gave me a sense of confidence, even though it kept resulting in chaos and turmoil. It at least got me through being seen and being perceived. And for me, that was my solution. And then I would have this massive break. So phoning Luke Wilson on the phone, for example, having my cousin almost break down a door in an old jail we were staying at, and get flown home in a panic and have my dad watch me for 2 weeks because I wanted to unalive myself. That would happen. I would be aware on that kind of come down that that is what was happening, that I had no self-worth, that I was becoming a problem, that I was making bad decisions, choosing the wrong people to surround myself with. And I would be aware of it. And then I would go and do the same thing because I had no other coping mechanism. None. I wasn't prepared to face my trauma from childhood, and I wasn't prepared to face the decisions I was making. Yes, I could acknowledge them. I was smart enough or capable enough to acknowledge them on a come down. But when I went out and I was in public and I was being perceived and seen by other people, I needed something to lubricate what I was feeling. And that was alcohol, and that was pills, and that was anything I could get my hands on that made me feel not me. Because I hated me, I loathed me. And then I would get wrapped up in self-loathing and victim mentality, and it would keep me sick. It would constantly keep me sick and other people around me. And that is how moments that were supposed to be fun would become chaos and haunting for other people. I'll tell you another story. My cousin that I share about here, that I went on holiday with, that was my best friend and my person. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know she passed away. She contracted meningitis and she passed away. And when my cousin passed away, it was September. And that December, I went to Cape Town with some friends. I was on hard drugs at this point, and I managed to go to Cape Town. My friends let me stay where they were staying just so I could get away. And I went there, and on the New Year's Eve, I went to another party and I blacked out. I don't remember anything. And I woke up. My brother was in Cape Town too. He was staying in a little apartment there. I woke up in my brother's bathtub, fully clothed in water, with his friend, a girlfriend, sitting in the bathroom with me, throwing, like, splashing water on my face to try and keep me awake. And she was like, dude, what the fuck is going on with you? Your brother was called to a club to come and escort you out because you were being dragged out by bouncers. And he had to pick you up, get you in a taxi, and get you here. And you ran a bath and jumped in a bath. And your brother has just given up. He's gone to sleep. And now we're sitting here making sure you don't die. So what had happened that night was, apparently the clock struck 12 o'clock and everyone was celebrating, and I blacked out and started telling people that everyone they love is going to die. My cousin died. There's nothing left to live for. I started picking fights with people. The bouncers escorted me out. Someone there knew who I was. Phoned my brother. My brother had to stop his night, come and get me, take me home, and I jumped into a bath fully clothed, crying and screaming, and had his friend sitting there trying to calm me down. So again, I go out on a night that's supposed to be, that my friends have organized so that I can kind of, just enjoy life with them and they're being there for me. I destroy it. I black out. I put other people in danger. I make other people stop what they're doing, come to get me, and they have to deal with the consequences of it. And that was like a cycle in my life, a complete cycle. And I'm trying to think of other New Year's Eve stories because there's so many. It would just be great if I could remember them. But I hate New Year's Eve. I hated holidays because for me, it was an excuse to go out, party even more. And if something bad had happened, like losing my cousin, even more of an excuse, because I used my cousin's death as an excuse to do more drugs, you guys. I used my cousin's death as an excuse to drink more. No one could stop me because I was in mourning. That was my addiction talking. Again, ruined a perfectly good New Year's Eve for a lot of people, including the bouncers at a nightclub who had to remove me from said nightclub. And then there's another story where one night, this wasn't a New Year's Eve, this was me celebrating getting out of rehab for the second time. And I thought I could go out with my using friends and not do any substances. So we went out, we went to a strip in Greenside, and I was like, this was a December. So everyone was on holiday. So obviously more of an excuse to come out of rehab and go partying. And we went out, we went to Greenside, which was a strip which had lots of bars and pubs on it. My friends owned one of the clubs there. I ended up at a bar I didn't usually go to, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to have one drink. I'm not going to do my drug of choice, right? Have one drink at this pub. Next second, I wake up in my mom's bed with a hospital band on. How the fuck did I get here? What did I do? What am I on? How am I in my mom's bed? What day is it? What's happened? So what happened was, I went out to celebrate getting out of rehab, December holidays, everyone's vibing. I have one drink. My drink of choice was a vodka, probably straight vodka or vodka lime. And I had my vodka, which obviously led to more and more and more and more. And what else I took, I don't know. And I caused a scene at this pub, vomited on everyone. So that's great. Confessed undying love to someone I was there with who had wanted nothing to do with me, one of my using friends. They won't tell me what happened that night because I actually don't want to know. And then I was escorted out of the pub. I think I was banned from the pub. And then somehow during all of this, I was taken to a hospital or escorted to a hospital. I went to the hospital. In the hospital, they were trying to restrain me, calm me down. I was in my blackout, like manic psychosis kind of episode, on something else as well. They couldn't restrain me. I jumped out of the bed, ran to the newborn unit where like new moms and babies are, started screaming at them through the window that these babies don't know how shit life is going to be and everything's going to be shit. And by the time my mom got to the hospital, I was being escorted out of the hospital by hospital security. So that just sums me up in active addiction. That sums me up. Everyone else took on the chaos. I put a lot of people in dangerous situations, and I just put a lot of pressure on a lot of people being around me and caused scenes wherever I went. Wherever I went, I caused scenes. So celebrations, New Year's, that kind of stuff was overwhelming, not just for me, but for people in my life. No one wanted to be around me, bro. No one wanted to be around me. So it's the next day. I had to stop recording because it was pouring with rain yesterday. The microphone stopped working and started picking up on every other sound except my voice. And then we had an emergency, so I had to leave, and I came back and I filmed the whole end of this video and the microphone was still not working. So I'm trying it again and I really hope it works, else I'm going to lose my mind. I also thought, hey, I'm going to wear the same outfit I wore yesterday because you guys wouldn't maybe realize that it was completely the next day. But then I realized I have no eyebrows and I draw them on every day. So my face changes every day. So no point in trying to do that either. So here we are. Okay, so I ended on stories from December holidays and how I used to celebrate holidays in December, you know, just time off when everyone's already enjoying time with their families, partying, time off work, and how I would kind of turn it into this chaotic situation. I spoke about how I phoned actor Luke Wilson when I was in a psychotic kind of blackout in active addiction. I spoke about how I scrimped at babies and mothers about how shit life is when I was taken to a hospital. And I thought, because I'm probably clickbaiting with the fact that I phoned a famous actor while I was blackout drunk, that I should actually tell you a few stories from December holidays where actual famous actors were actually involved. And these are stories I haven't really told before, because they're kind of non-stories. But like, if I'm going to clickbait, I need to tell you that there were instances where I was blackout drunk in front of actual like celebrities, and it's quite embarrassing. First time was another December holiday with my cousin, who that Terry saw me at my worst, dudes. Terry saw me at my worst. I put her through a lot, okay? The one December holiday before I phoned it was the December holiday before I phoned Luke Wilson. We went to Cape Town again on a holiday, and it was me and Terry. We were 19 at the time, 19, 20, and we went on holiday. Now, you have to understand, wherever Terry went, people would look at her and stare at her, not just because she was this magnificent model-looking woman, okay? But she had like this aura around her that you want to get to know her. She wasn't just beautiful. She was someone that everyone loved. She had this kindness around her, this approachability around her. And then there was me, the drunk girl that was just always with her. And we were kind of polar opposites, but we balanced each other out. It was cool. But Terry used to get invited to like parties, okay? Now, let me give you perspective. She was in FHM, which was a magazine like for models once. Like, people knew Terry, people loved Terry. I was just there. I was the drunk cousin. And when we went to Cape Town that year, Terry got invited to this really fancy club with some of her friends. Of course, I got the invite too, and I went along with her to this club, and we went to the VIP section. We were getting trashed, hammered, like off. I was off my face. Terry was completely in control. She always was. I was out of it. And I'm sitting down. Next second, who walks in but Kevin fucking Spacey, okay? Kevin Spacey, disgraced actor. Awful person, Kevin Spacey. Back then, no perspective on who Kevin Spacey actually was. He was just an actor from American Beauty, and I was just a girl studying drama who was a proper addict, okay? So Kevin Spacey comes, he sits on a couch, and what do? I go, I get a drink, I down it. This is probably like my 10th one that night. I go and I sit next to him and I start talking to him while drunk, while off my face. He wasn't doing too well either, okay? Let me give you this. No one in that room was. And I was sitting next to him and I started talking to him. I started telling him that I was an actress, that I loved American Beauty, that I studied some of his films, all this bullshit. And I was talking and talking and talking. Homie was not having it, okay? He was so disinterested in the girl sitting next to him. Also, way too old for him at that point. I was 19. But I was sitting next to him and trying to talk to him, trying to engage with him, and then I black out. So the microphone stopped working and I did the whole ending. So I have to go back to, and I was a 19-year-old next to Kevin Spacey. Anyway, so that night I got completely trashed off my face. I blacked out while harassing Kevin Spacey and telling him I loved his films and how I was an actress. I do not remember the rest of the night, so that's great. When I got drunk, I liked to speak to celebrities, apparently, some that were real, some that weren't. That one was real. And then another time, we were in Joburg. We were at a club that my friends owned, and we heard that Ryan Philippe from Cruel Intentions, that guy, was at one of the bars down the road. He was there because he was in Joburg and Cape Town filming a movie called The Bang Bang Club, if I'm correct. I think it was that. He was there with that actor who played Gambit in the original like X-Men films. Anyway, we heard he was there. I was at this club. I usually worked the door at that club, but that night I wasn't working the door. Regardless whether I was working the door or not, I was drunk. I was off my face. And this time I was standing by the bar in the spot I used to stand at every time I was there, just so I could get drinks on the go. And everyone was like, Ryan Philippe is going to end up here. Like, this is happening. So cool, cool, cool. But now when I got drunk, you guys, how do I verbalize this? I got aggressive. I thought I was the shit. I thought I was the most important person in the room. I had this inflated sense of self. I wasn't just drunk, I was also on drugs. So then that sense of I'm better than everyone else. I've got so much confidence came to my head, especially when I was at that particular club bar place, because I knew the owners, I knew everyone. I just felt on top of the world. I felt special. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden the place gets packed, like absolutely packed. And someone bumped into me. And I was like, this bitch, this guy, whoever just bumped into me now, I'm not taking it. I'm the most important person at this place. And instead of turning around and being like, hey, sorry, it's packed. I understand people are going to bump into me, or just ignoring it, I did this thing that I love to do, which was elbow someone in the stomach. Didn't know whether it was a man, a woman, anyone. I was just like, I'm going to elbow you in the stomach. What are you going to do about it? And I did that, and I did it hard. I did it hard. And I looked up, and it was Ryan Philippe, whatever you want to call him. And I elbowed him in the stomach. That is how I met him. And I disappeared off into the night and into the bathroom because I assaulted another celebrity, harassed another celebrity. So those are the kinds of things I did while drunk. So if I'm going to clickbait the fact that I phoned a famous actor while I was blackout drunk, I'll tell you two stories in which I was actually in the presence of famous actors and I did actually harass them. So my apologies to Ryan Philippe. My apologies to actor Luke Wilson, who has no idea that in my psychosis I was phoning him to tell him about my life story. And no apologies to Kevin Spacey, because fuck you, Kevin Spacey, you know what you did. Okay, so that's fun. So that is how I would spend my December holidays. They were an excuse to get drunk. That's how I spent my December holidays. That's how I spend every day in active addiction. But my December holidays, I would go bigger because it was an excuse to go bigger. Everyone was drinking. Everyone was using. I'm going to do the most. It's the perfect excuse for me to do whatever I want because everyone's in that spirit and I can get away with it. And I was never able to get away with it because I caused absolute chaos. I would go into psychotic breakdowns. I would try to unalive myself. I would get depressed. I would cause chaos for everyone around me. I would ruin perfectly good holidays or getaways because I couldn't experience joy. I had to experience chaos. I had to be the center of attention and I thrived on that. And it was also, like I stated previously, I was so desperate for human connection, whether it was a guy I like not liking me back. I would always lean on that, kind of chase guys who weren't interested in me because then I had an excuse to act out. I had an excuse to get worse and worse and worse. And that was a pattern I did throughout my life. So how did that change in recovery? How did I get used to celebrations or moments of relaxation or moments of joys from New Year's Eves to birthdays to weddings to special occasions like that? How do I cope with them now? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the progression of New Year's Eve in my recovery, the progression of going to events in my recovery and how things changed, and how I am able to enjoy those moments now. If I'm able to enjoy those moments now. If you have made it this far in this video where the sound I know is messed up, everything jumps all over the place because filming has been incredibly difficult for this because of the microphone issue, because of the rain, because I don't have the right equipment, can't get the right equipment yet. Thank you so much for being here. It's very frustrating because I really want to do this properly. I just don't have the means to do it properly just yet. So I'm just trying and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, dudes. Okay, so how did I deal with New Year's Eve and celebrations in early recovery versus how I deal with them now? New Year's Eve is just an example because that's kind of the theme of this video. I remember my first New Year's Eve in recovery. I didn't want to do anything. I had just gotten out of primary treatment and I was staying in a halfway house at this point. And I just wanted to stay with the people in the house. I didn't want to go to any kind of recovery event either. I was exhausted. My body was not in a good place. I was very sick. My kidneys were struggling. I was on a lot of medication and I just stayed home. Okay. So it wasn't like this big day, but I did feel a lot of resentment around the fact that if I went onto social media or something, back then it was Facebook, and saw all my friends or past friends out having fun, being at all these parties, I did feel very sorry for myself. So I went to bed early that night and woke up and kind of just fell into that pattern of self-pity. The second year of my the second year of my recovery and that New Year's Eve was different. So I had started kind of building a life for myself. I had moved into a sober house. I had a boyfriend and I had started building a career, very junior in the career, trying to find my way, um, didn't have a lot of money. And I thought, let me go out, let me celebrate. And there was a recovery New Year's Eve party that night. So it was cool because I could get dressed up and I could go, and it was with a bunch of people I felt safe around. And we went to this recovery New Year's Eve party that was at a recreation center. And as I walked in, I was overwhelmed because it kind of reminded me of a psytrance party. A lot of bright decor. There was a DJ, music blasting, people dancing, like glow sticks, which was a little bit weird for me. I wasn't in the headspace where I could be in that kind of environment, even if it was an environment free of substances. I also found it difficult because a lot of the people I was around, including myself at this point, were only speaking about past drug use and what we used to do on New Year's Eve. And of course, there were a lot of people like myself dealing with the fact that why can't we be out at the normal events we would have gone to? So it became quite uncomfortable. But over that year, I had put boundaries in place. I had a sponsor, someone I could phone if I was feeling uncomfortable. I had really good friends that were in the recovery space, and I didn't feel ashamed to verbalize the fact that I was uncomfortable in this environment and that it was making me feel triggered and it was making me feel sorry for myself. So I verbalized it. I wasn't the only one feeling that. So we went back to the sober house we were living at, and we spent the rest of the New Year's Eve kind of just sitting together, watching TV, and just like having a all-around kind of wholesome, nice time out of an environment that made me feel uncomfortable and made a few other people feel uncomfortable. Made a lot of other people feel incredibly comfortable. Let me put that out there. We figure out what works for us. So that was a night that was a little bit tough, but one in which I was proud that I could make the decision to say, hey, I'm actually not that comfortable here. Let's go to a different place. Let's go to a different environment and create our own comfort, which was empowering because at that moment I realized I had choice. Um, Active addiction took away a lot of my choice. And in recovery, I realized I had choice again. I could leave if I felt uncomfortable. I could create my own environment that made me feel safe with people that made me feel safe. And I could listen to other people's feelings and hear, hey, they're feeling cool here. Let them enjoy themselves. I can go home. Or they're not cool feeling here, being here. Let me help them and I can give them a ride home or things like that. Just a lot of empowering stuff in being able to make a choice, figure out my boundaries, pick up a phone and phone someone and say, hey, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Is there something empowering in that? Because I never really realized I had that choice before. And then as each year went by, my life started to shift and change. By my third year in addiction recovery, I had broken up with my boyfriend and I was in another halfway house at this point. I felt very low. It was a really tough time, especially going through a breakup in early recovery. And I was struggling with my eating disorder as well. So I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be perceived. There was a lot going on for me. And I decided the best thing I could do on that New Year's Eve was not stay at the halfway house, but go to my cousin's house, and house sit her house while she was out and look after the cats because there were fireworks and stuff. So I felt like I was contributing in some way, but I was also very sick with my mental health and my eating disorder at that point that I wasn't even concentrating on, hey, it's New Year's Eve, I should be out, I should be partying. I was acting out on really bad eating disorder compulsions and behaviors. that night. So I wasn't doing really well. It wasn't a celebration. It didn't feel like New Year's Eve. It just felt like another day where I was sick. And that's also important to note that our mental health can take a toll. But after that new year and after that third year was when things started to change. I had moved jobs. I started making friends in the job I was at, started making friends with people who weren't just in a recovery space, people that weren't just addicts. I moved into my own place for the first time by myself outside of a halfway house, and I started going out a bit more. And in that process, I realized, hey, I still have recovery community that I can go to and I can lean on and go to meetings. But I also have like a kind of, I'm starting to build a life for myself outside of just a recovery space. And I would go to bars or I would go to house parties, and I could go for 10 minutes. And if I was feeling uncomfortable, I could go home. Like I had those choices, and I always made sure I had an option to leave whenever I wanted to leave, be it in my own vehicle with an Uber, or just telling the people I'm with that, hey, if I need to leave, I need to leave, and not really feeling bad about that I'm leaving. Like I don't need to make an excuse as to why I'm leaving. I'm just uncomfortable and I'm going to go. And that way I was able to protect myself. So in that year, I slowly learned how to go out. I slowly learned my boundaries. I had friends both in a recovery space, friends outside of a recovery space, friends who drank and friends who didn't drink. But I knew when I was comfortable and when I wasn't. And that's when I started building a life and started realizing, hey, I can actually go out and have fun. And if I'm not going out and if I am going out and I'm not having fun, I can leave. Again, there's something empowering in that. And I started going out a lot. I've gone to bars, I've gone to pubs, I've been in environments where other people were doing drugs, not in front of me, but I knew they were. And if I got uncomfortable, I would leave. Simple as that. I started figuring it out for myself. And if people were unsafe for me, I didn't have to be around them anymore. And if people were safe for me, that's awesome. You know, I started building this life for myself. And then came these big celebrations, okay? Like being invited to weddings and being invited to birthday parties and being invited to big events at certain pubs or bars that I wanted to go to where bands were playing. And I always made sure, bring my car, go when uncomfortable, leave. There, I would always find a person there that I felt safe around, that I could talk to. And if I couldn't talk to anyone, I could pick up the phone and phone people from a recovery space, and I could just tell them how uncomfortable I'm feeling, hold myself accountable, and leave. But there were plenty times I was out until 1, 2 in the morning having a good time while completely sober, but it was progressive. Now, what did I do on New Year's Eves at that point? I actually realized that I didn't like fucking New Year's Eve, bro. When I was in active addiction, I was those dangerous people on the roads who were high, drinking, driving, and putting other people in danger. I didn't want to be on the roads. I felt like New Year's Eve was a bad time for me, and I didn't like going out. I didn't like fireworks. It was overwhelming. It was overstimulating. I would rather be at home with some friends, you know? And that's what I did and still do for my New Year's Eves. If I wanted to go out, I could go out. I have been out. I've been to house parties on New Year's Eve. And you know what? I haven't stayed until 12 o'clock because I don't really feel like staying until 12 o'clock. I prefer to be at home watching a horror movie on New Year's Eve. I figured out what works for me. And if I wanted to go out, I could go out. I want to make that very clear. I just don't like it. I think if I was 10 years younger, I would probably be able to go out and have a nice New Year's Eve and feel safe. I remember one time in this recovery, I went to Cape Town again with a friend of mine, and she's not an addict. She likes to party, drink, you know, have fun. And she went out on New Year's Eve, and I stayed in the bed and breakfast we were staying at and watched TV and just chilled. And she came home in that evening and went to sleep, and we woke up and we had a really nice 1st of Jan. Like I didn't have to go out and have this huge celebration. I like to wake up on New Year's Eve and feel fresh and ready for the new year. That's just what works for me. But now I want to talk about celebrations like weddings and stuff, and also those triggering environments. So I've been to a few weddings in recovery, always been really nice. But there was one wedding I went to that was outside of Joburg, and we took a little drive and we went to this wedding. It was a small wedding in this beautiful, like kind of garden setting environment, very relaxed wedding. And this wedding looked exactly like that New Year's Eve recovery party, you know, reminiscent of a psytrance party, a lot of colorful decorations, kind of cool psytrance music, really cool people, um, everyone dressed up, really relaxed. And I was not triggered in the slightest. The difference, time. The difference was time and being comfortable in these kinds of environments. I went to this wedding. It was magnificent. It was one of the most beautiful weddings I've ever been to because it was so relaxed, so joyful, so fun. And they played like the kind of music you would hear at a psytrance festival when the dancing started. And I took my shoes off and I went and I danced on that dance floor for hours. And I had the best time. The best time. That was one of the best times, like being out, being in an environment where I hardly know the people that are there, and I'm just able to have fun with myself and my partner and a few people I knew there, and just really have a great time because I was in a space where I knew and I had shown myself that I was able to have fun without substance, without drinking. And when I got tired, we left. But it was I actually wanted to stay a lot longer. Like it was just, it's time makes a difference. You know, relearning behaviors, relearning how to be in an environment makes a difference. In early recovery, that second year where I went to a party that was similar to that, I felt uncomfortable and I had to leave. But then all these years later, I can go to a wedding that's like that and have the time of my life, dance, scream, shout, party. Like it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and not care what anyone thinks about me without substance. And that's the progression of recovery that I have seen. Being able to make a choice, saying, you know what, I'm not a New Year's Eve person, never liked New Year's Eve, never. In active addiction, never liked it, don't like it in recovery. I prefer to stay home and watch a horror movie, okay? Or be around friends and play board games if I feel like it. Like I do what suits me on nights that suit me and my recovery and the people around me. If my partner wanted to go to a big New Year's Eve party this year, I would have gone to a big New Year's Eve party this year and had fun, you know? Or if I wanted to go, he would have come with me. Like, but I didn't want to go. We were going to go to a friend's house for New Year's Eve, which we were looking forward to play board games, but something came up that day and we decided it's best to stay at home and nothing to do with recovery, just life stuff. Decided to stay home and watch a horror movie like we usually do. And it was so nice. It was so nice because then we started the year fresh, and that's become a routine for me. Is starting the 1st of Jan fresh every year, you know, and I'm happy for that. I found my own routine. I found my own way to celebrate New Year's Eve. But again, if I wanted to go out, I could. If I wanted to go to a big party, I could. And you know what else I could do? I could leave if I got uncomfortable. I could make a decision to leave if I got uncomfortable, and I would wake up with no regret, dude. And if I did wake up doing something while completely sober that I regretted, I could face it. So that's the difference, and that's the progression, and that's how much time and learning and kind of changing behaviors in order for our thinking to change it takes to get to the point where I can make these kinds of decisions for myself, where I don't feel resentful that I'm not out partying, where I can go out partying if I want to, where I can go to an environment that I would have found triggering 5 years ago that I find really invigorating and fun now. It all depends on where I'm at that day and the kind of community I've built, you know? And the people I'm around where I feel safe, and also creating a safe space for myself. I can't rely on everyone else to keep me safe. I know I have a sponsor I can phone if I feel uncomfortable. I know I've got a partner I can speak to if I feel uncomfortable. I know I've got friends I can speak to if I feel uncomfortable. And the same goes for them. They feel uncomfortable, they can tell me, regardless of where we are and what we're doing, you know. There's good boundaries in place, there's good communication in place, and there's choice. There's choice. And with that, because this video has been so hard to make, I will end it there. And I just want to say that time really does make a difference, and it really, truly is one day at a time. Happy New Year, my homies. And again, I cannot thank you enough for sticking through this video. I know the sound got weird at some points. I know filming got weird at some points. I know I probably got frustrated at some points because I'm really trying to make this channel work and I can't seem to do it properly. Because I don't have the right equipment, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. That is the goal for the new year, and I'm going to make it happen. Thank you for watching. Oh, and if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I always forget to say that, or follow me on Instagram or TikTok, and
I will see you in the next episode. Happy New Year. And remember, we do recover.